when you started, wrestling, you got in the business. Let's talk about the training process. It's very, intense, because you're constantly putting your body through so much. What was your experience like training to become a professional wrestler?
I trained in a barn in Jericho, Arkansas, with no heat, no air, and then also it really didn't even have a ring. It was more like a concrete slab on the floor with like 100 pieces of carpet laid over the top of it. And so, yeah, it cushioned the fall. I guess it was better than hitting the concrete, but you couldn't tell me any different, man. I was 15 years old. My mom drove me to the meeting with Outlaw Don Bass. We met at a little truck stop in West Memphis, Arkansas, probably about 30 minutes away from Jericho, Arkansas, probably another 30 minutes from like Memphis, whatever. So we were kind of right in the middle. My mom took me, met with Outlaw Don Bass. I was 15 years old, couldn't wait. When I showed up at the barn, of course, I'm not like, what is this? There's no ring and all. I was like, yes, let's go. And so, man, we would throw drop kicks till we threw up because it was hot outside. It'd be cold. We'd start in our jackets and everything, doing our flips and rolls and everything. And then, eventually warm up and come out of that. And then it got to the point where we would go set up the rings at WMC TV5 for the live Memphis Wrestling each morning, which would be at that time it would have been Power Pro Wrestling with Randy Hills, and then later became Corey Macklin's Memphis Wrestling. And I was able to perform on both of those shows, but we were setting up rings for it at first. And so we'd have to get there super early at the TV station. We'd set up the ring as quickly as we could because then if we set it up quick, that means we had more time that we could get in the ring and work out in an actual wrestling ring that they used on television instead of a barn that had a concrete slab with carpet over the top of it. And so sometimes the wrestlers, they realized that we would set the ring up a little early and they would show up early and they'd want to work out and go through their stuff for TV that day. We're like, oh man. So like we had to be quick. We had to get in there early so we can get in our flips and bumps, flips, rolls, bumps, and actually work out, hit some real ropes. The ropes we had at the barn were so loose and it was so close to the walls of the barn. I know this sounds ridiculous looking back on it. Like I paid $3,000 to do that. You know what I mean? So it was like looking back on it, like, whoa, what could I have done with that? But man, you could not, like I said, tell us any different. We loved it. So Don Bass would have to hang on to the rope when we hit the ropes and he'd tighten it up. And he was a good 300, 350 pounds. So when we hit the ropes, like to keep tension on the rope, he would have to hold on to it. And it would lift him up because we'd hit the ropes. So it was a big difference of setting the ring up at TV5 Studio and working out in the barn in Jericho, Arkansas. So we had the best of kind of both worlds, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, almost like a night and day difference, when you're
Yeah,
going
but
to.
if you can bump on a concrete slab with carpet, and I know that sounds really ridiculous to say it, especially in 2024, but man, if you could do that, you could obviously bump in a wrestling ring much easier. So, it was helpful. I compare it to, and this is ridiculous, but I kind of compare it to like when you're going hunting and it's really cold outside, you don't put on all your layers of clothes yet. You gotta get accustomed to what it's going to feel like, and then you bundle up after that. So it's kind of like learning how to bump properly. And if you could do it here, you can definitely do it there. And then once you got there, it was much more comfortable bumping in the ring, obviously, than it was barn. So
Were there any pieces of advice that you got from Don Bass? When you're training, when you're learning how to bump, learning how to fall, and learning how to wrestle that still stick with you today, even outside of the business.
the one thing about training that really, really sticks with me is that I was switching jobs at one point, and I was either flipping burgers or waiting tables or something at that point, 15, 16 years old. And I told Donnie that I was going to have to be away for about 3 weeks. And then I'd be back as soon as I got, because I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was a kid at this point. My parents put it on me to pay for the training. So that way it was more important to me. If I paid for it with my money, then I would not quit. It would be more important. So I remember telling him that I'd be gone for 3 weeks. But as soon as I got that first paycheck, because I just didn't have the money. So as soon as I got paid with that first paycheck, I would pay my dues and I'd be right back. And then when I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And when I did come back, he told me that when I said that I would be gone for 3 weeks, him and there was a guy named Tojo Yamamoto Jr., which was a Mexican guy. He wasn't even Japanese or anything like that. But he was kind of helping a little bit with the training at one point. they both told me that we never thought we'd see you again. We thought you just quit. And that was your way of quitting. And so that stuck with me even to this day. I mean, I could tell you a lot of things that I remember about training that long ago, but the main thing that sticks with me is when they didn't think I was going to finish. And so I've just kind of used that as fuel a little bit, not in a bad way. Like I wasn't mad about it. It just kind of hit me like, oh, wow, okay. They thought I was quitting. All right. So I proved them wrong.